Sexual Follies. I just love the thing where she falls off the end. All right. Here's in the New York Times, which you may have heard used to be a newspaper, right? Marriage, which used to be the default way to form a family in the United States, regardless of income or education, has become yet another part of American life reserved for those who are most privileged. Now let's think about that for a minute. Is marriage reserved for those who are most privileged? Is that a truth? Is that a true story? I mean, is there something, if you show up at a justice of the peace and say, this is my girlfriend, I'd like to marry her, does he say, you're just not dressed, you don't have that thing, I don't like your accent, you don't have enough money. I mean, what does it cost to get married? $50? I don't know. That's an amazing lead, okay? So it's a question of privilege. You now have to feel guilty about being married, okay? Fewer Americans are marrying overall, and whether they do so is more tied to socioeconomic status than ever before. In recent years, marriage has sharply declined among people without college degrees while staying steady among college graduates with higher incomes. This is just reaching the New York Times. We all knew this before, but it is just reaching them. Currently, 26% of poor adults, 39% of working class adults, and 56% of middle and upper class adults ages 18 to 55 are married, according to a research brief published from two think tanks, the American Enterprise Institute and Opportunity America. When thinking about how to make families more stable, in other words, after the 60s, what happened was after the 60s, we were told, marriage was no good, the family was no good, the suburbs were no good, America was no good, and all this stuff. As always with these elite things, these come from the top. They come from the people who were raised in suburbs, were raised by nice families and all this, and they rebel and they make these speeches and the press picks it up, and the poor follow them. The poor follow this advice and get screwed, and the rich say, you know what, that wasn't such a good idea, and they start to get married again. The rich go to church. The rich work hard. The rich know not to have babies out of wedlock because they are the leaders, they're the thought leaders, but they don't go back and say to the poor, oops, we made a mistake. Now our television shows are going to tell you that it's good to be married. Now our TV shows and our spokesmen and our movie stars are going to stop getting divorced 6 times. They're going to start to tell you that it's a good thing to be married. They don't correct their errors. The article goes on. When thinking about how to make families more stable, researchers debate whether the decline in marriage is an economic issue or a cultural one. Those on the left usually say it's economic and could be reversed if there were more and better jobs for men without college degrees. Those on the right are more likely to say it's because of a deterioration of cultural values. Well, I've talked about this before, that some of this is in fact economic, but these guys don't want to admit the cultural side of it because they did it. They're guilty. It's like it's not the fault of the right that the economy sometimes goes bad. It is the fault of the left that the culture has gone bad. I mean, there were stories. I just clipped one out, 2011, I think this is, from the New York Times. Former newspaper, right? Men Who Needs Them. Men Who Needs Them. The term mammal is based on an objective analysis of shared traits. The genus name for human beings, Homo, reflects an 18th century masculine bias in science. That bias, however, is becoming harder to sustain as men become less relevant to both reproduction and parenting. Good thinking, New York Times. This is 60 years of men being run down, 60 years of marriage being run down, 60 years of women being told they don't have to know how to make a home, they don't have to know how to cook, they don't have to bring anything to the marriage. All they bring to the marriage is privilege. All the man brings is responsibility. It's funny. Why aren't people getting married? Why aren't people getting married? That would be another interesting thing to see how many of the upper class women are actually staying home and taking care of their children, which at least makes them valuable to the husband because it means he can go out and provide for them. Sexual Follies. Play that thing again. I got to end at least with a laugh. Never mind. I'm sorry. I find it amusing. All right. The mailbag is tomorrow. Get your questions in now. Yeah, we can have an actual live woohoo. Woohoo! It makes it the real mailbag, This is the time. Get your questions in. You got to subscribe to get them in. We will answer them all. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show. We'll see you then.